All right, so in this video, I have a family sizing of sneakers, and I cannot believe that this model is actually 40 years old now, which it does make me feel a little bit older, but at the same time, it's insane that this model has had such an incredible run with Nike. Big shout out to Hibbett City Gear for sponsoring this video and sending this care package over for the family. If you've never heard of Hibbett City Gear, I'll link them in the description. You can download their app, check out their website. But they have a great website where you can actually go out there and check their release calendar, future releases coming out, especially with the holiday season right now. There's lots of really cool stuff coming out. Also, they have a nice sales section on their website. And really, it's just fun to be able to go navigate through and see what pairs that they have available on their site. Sometimes they have stuff that's not available on like New Balance's site or on Nike's site as well. So definitely check it out if you're interested. The link in the description. Pretty awesome when they do this. It's always nice to have some little things for the little ones. And this is a little appetizer of what is to come here, because the Air Force One from Nike turns 40 years old. It came out originally in 82, which is just nuts to think that 82 was 40 years ago. I'm an old dude, so I'm like, dude, it's just significant. It's very significant. Let's just say that. Any which way, now it is 40 years later, and my daughter has little Air Force Ones here that they sent over that has this crazy little pull tab on it with this lockdown system with Velcro, but done in a different way than I've ever seen integrated in a pair of shoes. Because it has the like rubberized laces, but I don't know, the tongue down here is Velcro. It's really cool. I like what they did with this. My daughter was able to put them on herself by pulling up on the tongue. But then we have a pair for Harrison as well, and it's similarly different. So it's all black and white from what they sent. But this is an Air Force One that has little hits of patent leather and cracked leather as well on a couple of the panels, and I'll show you guys that in just a second as well. Harrison was like, whoa, look at this thing. It's like crazy. The panels and stuff are all cracking, and I don't know. He was like, is it supposed to be like that? I was like, yeah, dude, it's actually supposed to be like that. He's like, this is cool. Anyway, wife got a pair here as well, and this is the one that I'm not sure. This is the Air Force One Shadow. So this is kind of crazy too. You can see the midsole has an extra little panel back here, and it has a double swoosh action going on the outside as well. So very cool looking shadow sort of shoe that they created. And then for the pair that they sent over for myself, it's actually the 40-year anniversary pair. So it does say 40 on the back here, that's like de-embossed, and it has like the little Air Force One stars that we know and love from like the bottom of the shoe. It does say Nike Air Force One on the tongue here with a big giant one over top of it, and then has Nike Air fused on to the back of the shoe. But pretty nice colorway. I mean, honestly, all four of these are great because they're just all black and white, and it's something you can wear with pretty much anything. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about the Air Force One, historically speaking, for those that didn't know, like I guess a little bit about the history. I already did a full video capturing the highlights of the Air Force One that I'll show you guys in a second. The Air Force One was introduced in 1982 and designed by Bruce Kilgore, and the original price was actually $89. It was actually the first basketball sneaker to feature the Nike Air technology. The other technology that this shoe featured was the Nike Cup sole technology on the soles, which was really revolutionary for basketball players back in the day. The shoes were actually named after the presidential aircraft known as the Air Force One. Kilgore turned to an unlikely inspiration, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, to figure out how to angle the midsole out to have a large enough contact patch with the court. The original prototypes actually had mesh on the shoe, not full leather. A fun fact about the Air Force One is that one of the very first wear testers of the Air Force One was actually Tinker Hatfield, who actually joined Nike in 1981. The high top version of the Air Force One was the very first version released, followed by the lows, then finally the mids that you can see in front of you. The high tops were actually inspired by hiking boots. So when the shoes went into production in 1982, Nike actually signed 6 NBA players to wear the Air Force One on the hardwood. The original 6 were Moses Malone and Bobby Jones from the Philadelphia 76ers, Michael Cooper and Jamal Wilkes from the LA Lakers, and Calvin Nate and Michael Thompson from the Portland Trailblazers. So in 1983, the NBA player Moses Malone rocked the Air Force Ones and won the 3rd MVP award with 22.5 points per game and 15.3 rebounds per game. Definitely put the Air Force One on the map, especially in the Philly area. So in 1984, the Air Force One actually was discontinued, but in 1986, it was the very first time that Nike ever did this. They actually brought back in retro the Air Force One. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details of how this actually occurred. The demand was so high in the East Coast that there was a couple stores that actually worked together to get Nike to release some new colorways of the Air Force One. and Nike actually made that happen and ended up releasing them every month to these boutiques, which kept the thirst for the Air Force One alive, and also was pretty cool because they would bring different colors that were not previously retroed. Notably, the Air Force Two actually was introduced in 1987, the Air Force 3 in 1988, and the Air Force STS or Air Force 4 was introduced in 1989. In 2002, the rapper Nelly introduced the song Air Force One, which was a huge success, almost had the same vibe as My Adidas for Run DMC back in the day, and definitely turned a lot more people on to the Air Force One. Also, in 2002, Kobe was rocking the Air Force Ones as well. Can't really mention the Air Force One without mentioning Rasheed Wallace, who also rocked the Air Force One as he played for the Portland Trail Blazers. Then in 2002, Kanye was actually spotted in the Air Force Ones. And then in 2013, Drake also had a stint in the Air Force Ones. The Air Force One was also the first model from Nike to release a pair that cost over $1,000 at retail price. The Luxe versions featured real Anaconda and Croc and were $2,000 when they were released. At this point, nearly 2,000 versions of the Air Force One have been released thus far, which is pretty amazing. Complex states that is probably the best-selling athletic shoe in the history of sneakers. Also, there have been so many different versions of the Air Force One at this point. They have Flyknit versions, Lunar Lawn, leather, suede, different materials, different limited runs. They have so many different versions of the Air Force One thus far. It's not hard to believe that it's possibly the best-selling athletic shoe ever. So there's a little history lesson for you guys on the Air Force One, and it's pretty crazy that this model was created 40 years ago because it's kind of like a timeless model. I mean, the overall general shape of the Air Force One, the Nike Dunk, the Air Jordan 1, those are three very, very iconic models that have gone away and come back and gone away and come back, and they've pretty much forever remained timeless. So 40 years down, I wonder what the next 40 years are going to look like for this shoe. I mean, this could be a shoe that's celebrated and have like a 100-year anniversary in the future. The functionality is there of the product. It's not the most comfortable shoe on the market. Obviously, it's very heavy, very thick rubber outsole in this thing, and cut and sew leather upper. Cut and sew, for those that don't know, I'm just talking about the leather panels that are cut and sewn onto the shoe to create the upper of the shoe. Versus nowadays, you have a lot of engineered mesh uppers for most of the basketball shoes out there. But the humble beginnings of a basketball sneaker turned into a fashion icon, many collaborations and colorways later, and here we are 40 years later with a simple white and black colorway. This one does look a little bit different than some of the other ones that we see out there. A couple notable differences: it has a embroidered swoosh right here in the front of the shoe, and then you also do have the 40 with the stars that's de-embossed back here. Also, the Nike Air on the back is usually stitched on, and here it is fused on. The tongue also has the one over top of the Nike Air Force One. The midsole looks pretty much exactly the same though. Very thick rubber midsole with the Nike Air prominently here on the outsole of the shoe. So I wanted to pass a question off to you guys. Which is your top 2 or top 3 Air Force One colorways that have like ever released? It'll be really fun to see if you guys have a deep reach with some of the models that you guys remember from the past, because there's some really cool obscure colorways. There's some really fun models and versions of the Air Force One, from Flyknit to Lunar Lawn and so on. They've done a lot of great things. One of the ones I think a lot of people will probably say is the Air Force One in the Off-White collaborations, but the Air Force One has had a ton of crazy collaborations from back in the day, from the Crocodile and Anaconda ones to Fat Joe's versions to the Serato ones, which as a DJ, I've always wanted those Serato Air Force Ones. Serato is the brand that makes the DJ mixers and stuff like that for DJs. But there's been so many crazy ones from back in the day, and it's nice to see the ebbs and flows of the Air Force One. They come back in, they're really hot, they go away for a little bit, and then they come back in full swing. But they've had a long-standing history of releasing really cool stuff. But it's fun to be a part of sneakers for so long now that my daughter can actually wear Air Force Ones in this size, and then have new lacing tech that they create so she can get these on her feet a little bit easier. And this lacing system again is something else. It has the pull tab with the unlock here, so you unlock it and pull up. Also, this is the lock down here, and it literally looks like a lock padlock here, but then you can pull this down and then put it on the bottom of the tongue. But I love that you can actually pull up on the tongue and it's actually functional. She can fit her foot into the shoe. Very cool technology, something I actually haven't even seen before, so excited to see. So hopefully they'll do more of that. Honestly, my son could use that because he can't quite tie his laces yet, but his colorway is cool with the patent leather hits on it, the little gold foil for the tongue, and then also on the heel. And the big difference is the cracked leather on the toe box, and then the side panels of the shoe as well. I wish that they had that on the men's pair also. Kind of has a nice little aged approach to that. And then my wife's pair is a very interesting one, a little bit different, lighter than the other ones. The midsole is hollowed out, as you could see, so it's like a foam midsole, not rubber midsole. And then you do see double panels through the shoe, which I think is kind of cool as well. You do even have a double layer of a sole sort of right here with a little rubberized section with Nike repeated back here. And then also even on the back tab of the shoe, it says Nike twice back here also. Once embroidered and then once printed on the top. Oh, no, actually this is crazy. I didn't even notice it. But the tongue has two labels as well, and one of them's upside down and the other one's right side up. So nice little mismatch craziness going on here. But I like what they did. And it is a fun colorway, just white and silver, pretty simple and plain for the wife. All in all, very cool care package from Hibbett City Gear. And if you guys again want to use their website or download their app, check it out in the description. But thanks to Hibbett City Gear for sponsoring the video, much appreciated. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the content as well. It's kind of fun looking back. 40 years is a long time. A lot of great things came from the 80s, if you ask me. And this is just one of them in my opinion. But thanks for stopping by and watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Have a good rest of the day. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Hit that notification bell to be notified when my videos are posted. And hopefully we'll see you back for some more content. All right, peace guys.